Hey guys, as I had mentioned in a previous video, I was wanting to take a little bit and talk about my seizure disorder and the symptoms that I had and everything that I dealt with leading up to my diagnosis and all the things that I'm still dealing with today. Um, I'm going to be talking about some things that are a little bit embarrassing, but I figure if it can help anybody that may be experiencing similar symptoms, and maybe if it could help them out, then it's worth it. So first we're going to backtrack to 11 years ago, which is when I started having my symptoms. So when I had my first episode, obviously I wasn't aware that I was having seizures. I had gotten a very sick stomach, so I had gone to the bathroom. And while I was in the bathroom, I started to break out in a sweat, and I started feeling really, really bad. I felt so bad that I was thinking, oh my gosh, my body cannot handle this anymore. And so I was breaking out in a sweat. My vision had started to blur, and I felt like pins and needles all throughout my body. And it was at that time that I had passed out and fell to the floor. My daughter is the one that found me. There's definitely a trend with that. She's the one that found me throughout every episode. But she found me and called for my husband to come and help me. I was not able to stand up or walk on my own. My body was pretty much limp, and I just had no control over it at all. Like after that first episode, it was quite a while before I had my second episode. But most of these episodes, they were a lot the same. I had just I would get like a sick stomach and just not feel well. So I would go to the bathroom. And once in the bathroom, it was the same kind of thing. I would break out in a sweat, and I would be really dizzy, and my vision would blur, and I would pass out onto the floor. And it would be, I don't know how long I was in there before my daughter, she found me, which she's typically always the one to find me. Most of my episodes do start like that, with a sick belly. I have had episodes that just kind of happened out of nowhere that caught me completely off guard, and I didn't really have much of a warning before I went into an episode. And it was pretty recently that I had an episode that was caught by my daughter. She was able to witness the entire thing happen. And she had been in the bathroom with me because I told her that I didn't feel well. So she had gone into the bathroom with me, and I had the sweats, and I had the sick belly, the pins and needles, and I had passed out. And she later told me that my eyes rolled in the back of my head, and my body shook, and then I went stiff. And obviously I had passed out. And she got my husband and told him what had happened. And of course, they had to help me get up and take me to the bedroom so that I could rest. And it's worth mentioning that after all of these episodes, after every episode that I would have, I didn't just instantly get better. I would be very, very sick and completely wiped out for several days after. But it was because of that episode that my daughter witnessed, and she's like, I think you had a seizure. So the next day I had called my doctor, and I made an appointment to go in and see her. And my daughter went with me, and she told the doctor everything that had happened, and, that she thinks that I may be having seizures. So it was then that my doctor scheduled me to see a neurologist. I wasn't able to get in to see my neurologist for 6 months. But when 6 months had passed and I was finally able to get in to see my neurologist, she had scheduled an EEG to to see if I was having seizures. And I had the 4-hour EEG test, and it was a sleep deprived test. And that just means that I had to stay awake all night before the test so that I was extremely exhausted. So when I got there, they hooked me up to this thing, and I had like sticky things all over my head, and I was allowed to go to sleep for a while. And there were parts of the test where they had flashing lights that they put, right above your face. So they just they do that to monitor if you are having seizures. I got my results back a few days later, and it was found that I have a generalized seizure disorder, and I had actually had a seizure while I was having my EEG test done. Now, it was a seizure that I wasn't aware of. Like I wasn't like convulsing, or I didn't pass out during this seizure. So that seizure, I didn't feel it. I was unaware of it. So I don't know. I guess I have some sort of seizure that happens that I'm not completely aware of. But after they figured out that I had a generalized seizure disorder, obviously I was able to get help, and it was such a relief because finally, after all this time, I had answers. Rewind just a little bit. So before I had gotten my seizure diagnosis, I had been dealing with heart palpitations and shortness of breath, and I thought that I was having some sort of heart condition, like something was wrong with my heart. So I was going to see cardiologists and some other doctors, and they were doing all sorts of testing, and they ruled out any problem that I was having with my heart. So when I finally got my diagnosis for my seizures, it was such a relief. Like I was finally going to be able to get help. So they had put me on anticonvulsants, and I was still having seizures even after being put on the anticonvulsants. So there's been some medicine switches. The medicine that I'm on now, I'm actually taking 2 different types of anticonvulsants, and so far I seem to be doing well. I haven't had any seizures yet. Hopefully it stays that way. But the medicine it's kind of hard to take. It makes me very fatigued, very tired. I can hardly get through the day without stopping to take a nap. I will just get so crazy tired that I cannot hold my eyes open at all, and I will have no choice but to take a nap. I deal with a lot of dizziness, a lot of migraines. I have a lot of trouble riding in the car. When I get in the car, I have really, really bad dizziness. And the shadows from the trees, the flick from the trees, and just certain moments in the car, like the movement and stuff, will make me extremely weird feeling and sick. So most of the time when I'm in the vehicle, I just have my eyes covered. I do want to talk about a few other seizure episodes that I've had. I did have an episode where I was actually laying in bed with my husband, and it was crazy because I had this dropout feeling in my body, kind of like when you're on a roller coaster and you go down that big hill and your tummy just kind of, it comes up and it feels funny. So I had this sensation while I was laying in bed with my husband. Mind you, I didn't feel sick at all. I didn't feel weird. I didn't feel anything. But out of nowhere, I had this drop in my body. It was just like a full body drop. And I told my husband, I think I'm getting ready to have a seizure. Because by this time, I was already diagnosed. So I told him, I think I'm going to have a seizure. And he ran and he got me a cool washcloth to help keep me cool. And he told me to just stay in the bed, and it was the craziest experience for me because that was the first seizure that I was able to just lay down for and be prepared for, and I didn't have the trauma of getting up and going to the bathroom and just uh, it was just making it 10 times worse, getting up and walking to the bathroom. But being able to lay down and have my seizure on the bed was a totally different experience. Obviously, it still wasn't great. After I came to, I was still I was still wiped out. I didn't feel good after I woke up, and it still wiped me out for several days afterwards. And more recently, I had an episode. We were actually on the way home, and we were pretty close to the house, and I'd had a stomach ache, and it didn't feel like a really strange stomach ache like I typically had when I was gonna have a seizure. Like, it was just a sick belly. I didn't feel all kinds of crazy. Like, it was just a sick stomach. But we were on the way home, and I told my husband, like, please get me home pretty quickly. My stomach doesn't feel well. And we made it into the driveway, and I got out of the car, and after that, like, I don't remember anything. I somehow made it into the house. My boot was left outside somehow, like I lost my boot outside. And I had made it into the house, and I fell in the hallway and passed out in the hallway. And since I had that spell, I have not driven the vehicle. And it's because of that spell and like just how suddenly it happened that I'm scared to drive. Because if I had been driving the vehicle that time, I wouldn't have thought it was a seizure. I would have just thought that it was a sick belly. My tummy didn't feel good. And I would have tried to get home pretty quickly so that I could get in the bathroom. So if I would have been driving, I wouldn't have thought anything of it. I would have continued to drive, and I wouldn't have had the time to pull over and stop the vehicle safely before I had gone into my seizure. There wouldn't have been enough time because it happened so quickly. So because of that, I'm terrified to drive because it's so sudden, and it's just not worth risking my life or anybody else's life to drive in the vehicle. So I have just decided that it's not worth it, and I haven't driven in a while, and I'm not sure when I will feel comfortable to drive the vehicle again. So, obviously, day to day, like now, I just deal with a lot of fatigue and migraines and dizziness. And like, for as long as I can remember, I've had a lot of trouble with my memory. I have a really difficult time remembering and recalling things. My family's always sitting around and talking about things that had happened, and even things that had happened recently and things in the past, and I won't be able to remember any of it. And it's really kind of heartbreaking because I have a lot of memories that they're just gone. And that's really hard to deal with. Mom, I have a lot of trouble retaining information. I have a lot of trouble finishing my sentences and finding my words. I get a lot of words backwards and mixed up. I have a really difficult time with math and numbers. They just fly around in my head, and I cannot organize the numbers in my mind to do any sort of math, which is embarrassing. So it's things like that are just really difficult to deal with. And I just feel like a mess of a person because I have ADHD, and I'm just scattered and all over the place all the time. And I'm trying to do a million things at once and never getting anything done at all. And I obsess over things, and I have to go all in on everything that I do, and then I get bored very quickly, and I'm over it very quickly. So yeah, it's just it's crazy every day. I don't know. That's another thing that I want to kind of quickly mention with this, with the videos that I make. I cannot commit myself to making one type of video. When I started posting these little videos, I was like, well, I'm going to just post sewing videos and crafting videos. But very quickly, I decided that I cannot do that. It's boring. I don't want to do it. So with that said, I think that the videos from now on are just going to kind of be scattered and random, and they're just going to be videos that I feel like posting in that moment. Things that I'm going through, things that I'm enjoying, downtimes, uptimes, you know, just kind of random scattered videos. So that's what this is going to be. If it's not for you, I totally understand. I do, because it's just going to be random craziness. I don't know. It could be day in the life. It could be gardening. It could be chickens. It could be I'm depressed and I don't feel good. Or it can be like, oh my gosh, I'm all over the place today. Who knows what the heck I'm gonna post? I don't know. So if you want to stick around, that's cool. If not, I get it. Who knows what it will be. But I appreciate you guys sticking around to watch this video. If anybody has any questions at all, please leave a comment and let me know if there's anything else that you want to know. And if you're dealing with anything like this, leave a comment and let me know. Hopefully this can be educational for somebody and help anybody out. I do want to mention that the generalized seizure disorder does cause you to lose consciousness every time. Every time you will lose consciousness. So those are the really big scary ones, but there's lots of different seizures that a person can have. And a person can have multiple different kinds of seizures. They're not necessarily going to have just one kind of seizure. They can have several. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you're not feeling well, you've been having these crazy episodes, it might be worth checking out with your doctor. But I'm going to go ahead and end this video because it's obviously a little bit longer than I wanted it to be. But if you guys have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope that you guys have a great day, and thanks for watching.